Good evening. I'll call this meeting to order. This is our work session, our regular scheduled planning meeting here at 6:30. At this time, we'll do our 6 o'clock work session, and we'll hear from Kevin with our development status report.
There's a few changes. Camden Park, you guys approved the final on phase 5 last month, so they should be constructing houses in there pretty soon. Emerald Ridge, they're still going in there. Shallow Creek phase 2 sector 4, same thing, they're still building in there. Coslin is in phase 3. There's not a lot of lots left out there.
One street.
One street.
Finish up this one, one more street.
Aberdeen, final plat, phase 1 was approved, and phase 2 preliminary plat is up for approval tonight. Setta's Place, I haven't heard anything from them in a while. I don't know if they, I haven't heard anything. Timberline phase 7, or phase 6, they're building in, and phase 7, I think James said that they're splitting phase 7, so they're gonna be like phase 7A and phase 7B. So you'll probably see phase 7's final plat next month. Waterford was approved by the Planning Commission and the City Council, so it's all in their court now. Same thing for Dunsmore. Seth Gardens, they're going pretty good. Last time I drove by there, the building is up. Still got to face it and everything. Mill Point, the preliminary plat's approved for them in September. I hadn't seen anything over there as far as work being done. Comfort Inn, they finally resubmitted their civil plans. And they actually sent us the exact same plans they sent us the first time. So they got the exact same corrections. So, wait to hear back from them on that. Holiday Inn, they're building that out pretty good. It seems to be going well. The dentist office has received their CO, so they are open for business as far as I know. That's a family dentist office. So I think they do pediatric stuff too. Wendy's, I'm sure everybody knows, is now open. Convenience store on 42 and 70, they were moving the gas line out there this week and last week. So the gas line's in the turn lane that was going to be needed for that gas station, so they had to move it. Homes and Suites, they're steadily building there. McLean Industries, really the same thing. Kings Crossings, they're kind of at a standstill right now. That guy's still looking for a builder.
Heard anything from them?
I heard
Not a thing.
they went out there and did the pad and did the curb, and that kind of just stopped. I don't know what the deal is with that. Yeah. Yeah, that's what I thought. Cause and Convenience Store, hadn't heard anything back from them. Waffle House, they're having to resubmit their plans. They kind of had some engineering problems between the engineer they had, and they just kind of stopped responding to them, so they had to find another engineer. So, and that's it.
I appreciate that, Kevin.
Yes, sir.
Some of y'all, well, all of y'all, I think, actually will need to be recertified for your zoning. Tammy he's got classes set up for, or is going to have classes set up for what?
The end of January or the 1st of February, he's working on a date.
And it'll be just one night,
2 hours.
so we have to get recertified, and hopefully it won't.
When do we get again for
Yeah.
2?
Hopefully nobody has plans.
Is that gonna be earlier in the week?
It'll be a Wednesday or a Thursday. Is that bad?
Usually,
Usually?
we'll see.
If not, you can do it online. You can do a Zoom class later with Andy. I was just trying to get us all at one time. So, yeah.
Kevin, I will make one recommendation.
Yes, sir.
Larger font for the visually impaired. Because I'm technically farsighted, and I agree with reading glasses, but I'm struggling to see some of that you put up there. Just a request.
I'll take it into account.
Well, we're still in this section, in the work section, John, does, you mentioned the gas line that's been moved on 42, or 42 and 42. Is that owned by the city or by Spire? What is kind of gas line is in there?
I think it's ours. No, ours is on the, no. It gets kind of weird right there. It's on
Spire
42 and
has,
70.
Spire has a gas line there as well.
Yeah.
But
I know we
we're
got
talking about 42 and 70.
We got a regulator station right there too.
We have a line in Spire as well, no, put it in the well.
I can
That's something.
So both lines are being moved.
Yes, Spire. But right there. It's Yes, we have a gas line that is right at that gas station. It actually goes down 70 and turns down 42. And then it actually crosses the road at that regulator station, and it heads towards Kensington and then heads towards Water.
And as far as King's Crossing, there's no definitely what they're interested in, yeah, that's for commercial.
I haven't heard anything. Like I said, last I heard, that guy was having trouble trying to find somebody to actually build the building for him. So, I guess somebody had, if he hadn't built the building yet, I'm sure he hadn't got any future tenants.
materials that we're going to add to the,
The front facade, is what you're saying?
not just what the materials, we've been in discussion about materials. Discussing that, they're going to be looking into it, from what I understood. I don't have to plan on this subject right now. Chief, what do you think?
You talking about the vinyl?
Yeah.
We spoke with some of the vinyl guys, and they gave us some extra information that I haven't heard anybody say that they wanted to pursue that any further. So, I mean, I can get some price on top and add it to the materials if that's what y'all want.
I thought maybe you and Ray would look at what other materials that can be possibly brought in just before we go ahead.
The only thing we really looked at was the vinyl, just added vinyl. Yeah.
Okay, so then that way we pass all that's going to be added.
What you guys passed and what council passed was the hardy board. And that is in the book now, and it's added as a little material. But like I said, nobody had really said that they wanted to pursue the vinyl thing any much further. But I mean, we can. And I think some of y'all said that y'all would have rather had the thicker grade and things like that.
Like 44 mil,
Right.
the better, or higher quality. We'll just have to be prepared to, if it did, it would be flat, but if we prepared to, police that.
But I can, if you want to pursue it, we'll do it. Of course, it's also got to go to council too. But yeah, if that's what y'all want.
We want to see something else, some other materials, or, yes, y'all come tell us.
We just had this.
We were stuck on this bridge.
Yeah, we missed the meeting, so I don't remember.
You went on, article.
Yeah.
So you wanted to move on to. You can use it, but they can't use it.
James, I was going to know if my mic is out.
10th, we have 6:30 PM, we have our scheduled planning and zoning meeting. At this time, I do have an agenda, and I think we have one item on the agenda. So I'm calling this meeting to order, and first I need is the approval of the minutes from our December 9th meeting.
I'll make a motion that we approve those minutes and dispense with reading thereof.
Got a motion? On that, I'll second it. All in favor, say aye.
Abstention.
Yeah, me as well.
Go ahead. Thank you. Board members, do you have any reports? No reports from the board members. At this time, on the agenda, we have preliminary plat for Aberdeen Phase 2. And this is a public hearing. I believe we have insight here for the developer, representing the developer. And if you don't mind, come before us and tell us what you've got on your mind.
Good evening. My name is Justin Jones with Inside Engineering. We're here for Aberdeen Phase 2 preliminary plat. My understanding, we have full department head approval for the plat, preliminary plat, and it is in line with the previously approved master plan. We're here for any questions that y'all have, so we're seeking approval.
All right. Thank you. We have, this planning commission's received a lot of the concerns from you guys. We've got a thick document that looks like the subdivision, homeowner association, those folks that have interest in that area have diligently expressed their concerns to us. We've received that, we've heard about it. It's not the first time we've heard some of those arguments and complaints and concerns. So if you don't mind, we'll hear what you have to say. Let's try not to be so repetitive. Each of you have 3 minutes. You'll come forward to state your claim. Please give us your name and address and speak loudly and clearly in the microphone. Kevin, is there anything you need to reiterate?
This, that everything's been approved by all departments. If there was concern about the or the emergency egress, I mean, it's not a public road. I mean, just to be simple about it, it's not a through road that will be used by traffic. It would only be used by emergency vehicles in the event that their main entrance is blocked. And that's the only time it will ever be used. It'll have a knock box lock on it, or a padlock knock box lock, and be chained up until it's needed. That's basically it.
Okay. So there's been discussion on that lot. There's one particular lot that this corporation owns, Stars and Stripes, that's a part of the original Savannah Point subdivision. That's the lot that's being talked about that has a egress and ingress to this subdivision. I know that we've heard it numerous times, and there is a gate on it. I know there's been concern about who's the gatekeeper, who's got a key, who's shutting the gate, all of those things, and we've heard it over and over and over about that. It's not a through street. It's not a open thoroughfare. It's not to be used as a cut through when traffic's bad on a different road. You don't have that flexibility. Again, for all the Savannah Point residents, you would be able to exit that way in an emergency. The fire truck would be able to get to either neighborhood in an emergency. Rescue would be able to get to either neighborhood in an emergency situation. So a Knox box placed on the gate is something that our fire department has access to. They have a way to get in that box and a key to open that gate. From my understanding and what we've been told up to this point, it will be gated and it will be locked. So, I don't know if that addresses everybody's concerns, but come forward and we'll hear what you have to say.
Hey, my name's David Kopic. I live at 963 McAllister Drive. That gate is routinely in disrepair and open, so who will be responsible for keeping that thing repaired where it can be emergency access only? Do we have any plans on that, or?
I'm thinking that,
It starts from stripes until it's.
it's on their property.
I know,
So
but-
they would be responsible for all of the maintenance on it.
Well, say it's not repaired and it's always open, like who do we call, the city, or call them, or like how does that work?
Who would you hand that responsibility to?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear your question.
If the gate's constantly broken and open, who would we call?
Fire department.
Okay, and they would handle that? Okay.
I mean, until, it would be, the fire department or us would call Stars and Stripes.
Okay.
And then they would have to fix through it.
And during construction, if that gate is opened by someone and trucks are allowed to go in there, who do we call for that? Because that's,
not allowed to.
yeah.
It
that
won't
would
be allowed, but.
Yeah, well, I'm just saying, if
I know
that
what you're saying,
happens,
yeah.
do we call the police department? Because would that be trespassing?
I think you would, to open it, you know, it would be so select few people, it would be, I could understand if the lock was cut and you had vandalism, you know, that would be something we'd have to address.
Yes, sir, but I work in construction, so I routinely go to job sites like this where there's a gate that's not supposed to be open, that's always open, and people drive through it before construction. So I'm just saying, do we call the police, or what do we do?
I'm thinking that
You can call planning and zoning, or you can call the engineering department.
Okay. Okay, all right, thank you.
the lock would be placed on the gate, and Stars and Stripes would be responsible, the developer would handle that. Long term, it then becomes
Fire department.
a burden of the city of Calera to maintain the egress and ingress
Okay,
as an emergency access.
okay.
And it's an emergency access to either subdivision.
To both of them.
Yes, I understand that. But there's language somewhere that states that so that later on it can't be turned into a,
I know that in all of our meetings thus far, Tammy, that's my, you know, my understanding that it's been talked about in these open meetings and it would be recorded
okay,
in our minutes.
okay.
So, yes, there is language.
This is not the only one of these that we have.
Yeah, I understand, but just, it's our first time, so
Right.
we're just asking, okay. Appreciate y'all's time.
Hello, my name's Bruce Kincaid. I live at 967 McAllister Drive. As a homeowner, also we have letters, some more letters. On the 9th, I delivered 63 letters to your city clerk, Ms. Smith. Also, on the 10th, I delivered another 10 additional letters. And here is another 13 additional letters of protest. You willing to receive this? So to quickly understand this, our letters of protest, not all of them are the same, but a lot of them state this. This letter is in response to and a direct protest to the city of Calera's proposal to use Lot 618 of Savannah Point subdivision to connect to the proposed Aberdeen Phase 2 subdivision by Stars and Stripes to use as a road, emergency access, and/or any other way or means of connecting the two neighborhoods. The roads of Savannah Point are owned and maintained solely by the homeowners. They are private. Any use of these roads by Stars and Stripes or the Aberdeen 2 subdivision construction or residence will be considered a willful trespassing, and any damage that occur therefore will be legally filed by our attorney. The safety and security of our families and children are most important. Repair of the wear and tear of our privately paved roads are solely paid for by the homeowners of Savannah Point. Traffic in and out of our neighborhood are already at maximum capacity when residents are entering and exiting for work, school, and upon returning home. School bus traffic and our children's safety are our priority. Our roads are not designed to handle an additional 200 to 300 cars. I know that you said that it's only going to be used for emergencies. I lived in Summerbrook subdivision in Alabaster. We had a gate that connected the road between our subdivision at the time in Alabaster of Summerbrook to another subdivision. But guess what? The gate came down. So they joined them. So, even though that you may say that it's not going to happen, we don't know that in 5 years that it will happen. As the ARC being on the HOA committee, it doesn't, with the asphalt road, it doesn't meet our standard. It should be concrete.
All right, your time's up, sir. Who's next?
Hey, how y'all doing today? I'm Tommy Majors with the Majors Law Firm. Some of you may remember me from 2023. I was here on behalf of the Savannah Point Homeowners Association, as I am now, for at that time seeking the enforcement of the traffic regulations on the Savannah Point private roads. Similar here now, we are here to protect and promote the homeowners' interest in the private roads for Savannah Point. It's been said, but these are the sole responsibility of the cost and repair of the homeowners for Savannah Point. We filed a written protest, and I'll just really quickly run through some of the hot points. And I'm going to refer back to a public hearing vote, I believe back in December 23, regarding the approval of the Aberdeen Plat Phase 1, contingent upon it not being illegal or not valid for use. I'm not sure if there have been some decisions by the board since then, but what we're saying is that there is no valid use or there's an illegal use of 618 as proposed. And specifically what we're talking about, one, we all know that Savannah Point roads are private roads. That's been confirmed by the city of Calera, been acknowledged most recently within the last year and a half. Number two, what would happen and the city of Calera's approval of the submitted plans allowing the 618 to be a pass-through lot would result in an actionable cause for trespass. In addition, we're also looking at inverse condemnation on behalf of the city. The city has not filed any eminent domain proceeding, nor has it paid just compensation to the homeowners for Savannah Point. And that's the process to take property. In this case, the city has not pursued any kind of eminent domain or condemnation proceeding, and therefore they do not have the right to take the private roads or make use of the private roads of Savannah Point homeowners. Next, the city's approval in this case of the submitted plan would also constitute nuisance, or could constitute nuisance, another claim. And just scooting on, just so making sure we're all on the same page as far as the Savannah Point Homeowners Association's relationship with the Stars and Stripes developer. To my knowledge, there's really not been any conversation. There's been no request for some kind of agreement to maintain some kind of common use of 618. But real quickly, we're not aware of any Stars and Stripes right to a private condemnation to make use of those private roads, or if they filed anything in the appropriate court to do so. Nor is an easement that goes back to the Savannah Point Homeowners Association has not negotiated an agreement with Stars and Stripes that would allow them to do this. And lastly, I'd like to say that there has not been proper notice, to the extent there has not been proper notice of this meeting and any prior meetings to the interested property owners, such as all the property owners in Savannah Point subdivision, then we would also object and protest on that point as well. Thank you.
You mind asking?
Absolutely, yes.
So is it your opinion that if an emergency vehicle comes through that entranceway, it's trespassing?
Yes,
So do we need permission from y'all in writing to come through the main entrance as an emergency vehicle? Are you suggesting that we should not use those roads for emergency use?
for Aberdeen or for Savannah
For
Point?
Savannah Point?
So for Savannah Point, fire department is authorized to come in there for emergency vehicle purposes. And then what I referred to specifically now December of 2023, we had to specifically, when I say we, Savannah Point Homeowners Association, had to petition the city of Calera to approve that the city of Calera Police Department could enforce traffic laws within the private roads of Savannah Point Homeowners Association.
Mr.
That was all
So,
we're- Yeah,
in specific relation to lot 618,
yes,
if we come through there with a city emergency vehicle, you're stating that that's trespassing?
yes.
Okay. That's your statement.
It would
Well, I'm
be-
not an attorney, I'm just curious.
What we're saying is it could constitute trespass, and what I think these homeowners, hundreds of them apparently, are communicating is that there are reasonable belief that this is going to cause an unlawful invasion of the private roads.
So as a contingency plan, looking at your subdivision in Savannah Point, how many entrances do they currently have?
For Savannah Point?
Savannah Point has one entrance.
One entrance.
Mhm.
All right. In the case of an emergency situation where that whole entrance is completely blocked by, say, a traffic accident involving 5 cars right at the beginning, and a house catches on fire in the backside of the subdivision, how do you get to that fire
From the main entrance.
if it's blocked?
I mean, the city of Calera is the one that okayed that code for that entrance.
Hands down,
When they
I'm not
built it, when they
contesting that, I'm saying today and where we stand and what we currently have, you are telling me that it's trespassing if a city emergency vehicle comes through a lot to protect houses in the backside of that subdivision. That's what you're saying. I'm not putting words in your mouth, that's what you said.
We're saying it could
So I'm
cause
saying,
trespass.
in the case of an emergency where that entryway could become completely blocked, how do you get to the other people in the back of the subdivision? And let me just tell you, there's scenarios where that could happen. May not happen in 35 to 50 years. I mean, you look at some of the things going around the world right now, a lot of people never thought their house would burn just because they didn't maintain, the forestry. But things happen. So, not putting words in anybody's mouth, I'm just, when you said that it would be trespassing for emergency vehicles to come through there and respond to an emergency situation, that triggers me. Not an attorney, I'm just a member of this board. I'm just saying, for all of you people that are here worried about that emergency entrance, yeah, that may come times when it gets broken. There may come times when there's an issue. But when you truly need them, because your front entrance is blocked in a major situation, which could happen, think about that. That's all I'm gonna say.
And if I could speak just very quickly, Mr. Manager, you had indicated that there was a problem with notice. I'm seeing a lot of folks here, so I'm curious, what kind of problems with notice do you see, or do y'all take issue with as far as what was
We
said?
had to go word to mouth. We had to knock on doors.
Just to
let
the
people know.
extent that the city of Calera, the planning commission did not meet their notice requirements for properly notifying all interested parties in this process of this proceeding.
Do you have any number as far as the number of people that you believe addresses were not correct or were not, where notice was not sent? Do you have like a number that for the board so we would have an idea of what sort of deficiency there is in as far as those notices?
It's our opinion, it's our case here that each individual homeowner of the subdivision has an interest in those private roads. So that would be each and every house.
Would it be 2 people or 100? I mean,
I
I just want to get a handle on how
I
many.
think 1/4
Close to
was noticed,
420
3/4
houses probably didn't receive it.
And it would be all of us.
I live on the street and I was not notified.
Only 2 were notified
Okay.
out of 467.
And the reason I'm asking him is if he has like, some firm numbers, I understand everybody here might have some opinion, but it just becomes kind of chaos when everybody's, trying to yell. But everybody will have their opportunity to be heard if you want to be heard. But I just want to get an idea of how many notices we sent out versus how many they claim to get it.
I've got the
Claim didn't
reading.
get it. Let's see, we sent to Stone Creek, Anybody that touched the piece of property, which is the legal
Exactly.
requirements that we have.
And that
Got a
would be
notice.
that'd be my caveat. Are you referring to people that are adjacent, touching property, or are you referring to people farther in? Because there's a legal distinction.
We are stating here that we're in protest, that he plans to submit could cause trespass, could cause inverse condemnation, and nuisance. And under all three of those theories, the interested parties in this case would be all the homeowners, all interested parties in the private streets of Sandpoint.
Okay, it cost us $9.96 a piece to send these notices out. If we'd have sent to everybody in that neighborhood, it would have cost us over $5,000.
Well, he could pay. The developer can pay for that.
But that's not what the legal says you have to
I mean, that's
do.
not the point. The requirement is anything touching that
Yeah,
property.
and that's what we did, and that's what we do every
That's
time.
required by law, and that's what we do.
And
Is that when it's involved private streets though, or when it's on public streets?
There's nothing,
There's
Nothing
no,
there, so if the city doesn't want to take over the streets, is Aberdeen Streets going to be taken over by the city?
eventually, probably so, yes.
We've got it, you know, with the city understands that these are private streets, and we would stick to that position. And to the extent, and this is, you know, us bringing it back to clear that proper notice was not made according to law, and we also object on that basis as well. And that would include any prior hearings and prior submissions, but this one in particular.
Who's next?
My name is Warren Ezra, and I'm at 1117 Savannah Lane. I just want to read a statement that as a Savannah Point homeowner, my peace and tranquility are illegal right here. This is, you are imposing the hardship on us. It will cost us $4,000 or $5,000 to pay because developer and whoever is a committee had a poor planning. With respect to letting whoever, developer or the other HOA guarding the gate, you're letting the cat guard the milk. There is no way. It's in their benefit that that gate will be open because they are required to have 2 exits. We are 1. And that has nothing to do, sir, with respect to your question, you're trying to make a rule based on 1 exception. And I don't think that works right here. If you guys are using our private streets, in my opinion, it's just not fair, not right, and undemocratic. You cannot impose traffic and let us pay for the traffic that you guys created. It's a lack of training, lack of planning on this committee and also the developer. And that's what I wanted to say.
All right, next.
Steve Bradshaw, 379 Savannah Circle. Just a couple of questions. To your point, Mr. Edwards, as far as our neighborhood having 1 entrance, and what about emergencies? What about every other neighborhood in Calera that was built on the old standards that have 1 entrance? Are we going to take private property to connect to those? Southern Hills, Dunmore, Townside, Waterstone, Stone Creek. What's your plan for that?
No, I think that's a great point, and if it were me and I lived in the subdivision, I would want a contingency in there. Obviously, we're not looking at every contingency that's out there, but you've got an opportunity now that's already been there. The gate's been there for how long?
A couple of years, operable, maybe a year before it broke down, but now it's inoperable with a chain on it.
So, given the opportunity to actually have a remedy to the issue that could arise, may never arise. Good Lord willing, I hope it doesn't,
Yes.
right?
And
But it's all about contingencies, and a lot of times when you look at things and you're looking at what the worst case scenario is, you have an opportunity to make headway with that. So I'm not saying you do, I'm not saying you don't, I'm just saying that if it were me and it was my family in the backside of there, I would want a contingency, knowing that there's a potential.
I think most of the homeowners would probably be fine with emergency vehicles, but what was stated earlier is if there's a 5-car accident and we've got to get all the traffic out, if there's a 5-car accident on the Aberdeen side, you open up the gate, all of Aberdeen is now exiting through Savannah Point. that's 300, 400 homes, however many cars are on our streets now that we pay for. That's probably what we're talking about trespassing. I don't know that anybody would say a fire truck is trespassing, but all those other vehicles would be trespassing at that point.
Truly valid point. Hopefully, we never have a mass illegal
Hopefully,
movement like that.
To your point, it could happen. And
Absolutely.
the last question is, can the city just take anybody's private property and connect a neighborhood to it? If I own 60 acres on Highway 86 and you want to put a neighborhood on it, can you just take it, put a secondary exit to it?
Can I make a point? Stars and Stripes owns that lot.
The other side of the lot, our side, our streets. They don't own our streets, Kevin. So how can you just do that?
Not a question.
I'll let Mr. Attorney tell you.
Well, as far as, the question asked for an answer, the first thing, I guess, is the scope and what we're looking at as far as the scope and the traffic that's actually going to be there, not some proposed, what if this happened, what if that happened.
That's all I'm hearing is what ifs.
And I believe that what I've heard is that this is going to be a lock that's going to stay locked with the new lock that's been placed on it. I know it's been described as being in disrepair, but from the pictures I've seen so far, I see there's a lock on there to keep it shut. And the only time it's going to be open is if there is an emergent need to enter or move back. So if you're referring to just the intermittent traffic of some emergency vehicles occasionally, God forbid someone hasn't,
Neighborhood vehicles.
has to get in and out, for that entrance, it seems like it's going to be the lowest traffic. So when you say, can the city just take it, I think what the city has done is they're just simply asking for access to private
They're not
property
asking.
intermittently.
They didn't ask. They're just taking it. They didn't ask. They're just doing it. And that's our point.
But that's what I'm saying, this is not a taking up as far as I see it under the law. What this is a contingency to help this neighborhood have access in the event that there's some emergent need by firefighters or police in order to go in and out. And I'm not hearing anything that's been proposed as far as a new thorough way or new public way that would rise to any sort of a condemnation in which all of a sudden this was a public ingress, egress. This is not an ingress, egress issue. It's just a simple access point intermittently, from my understanding. So to answer your question, this would not be a taking by the city.
Giving access to private roads.
Let me just say, I understand a lot of y'all's concerns. I think a better argument would be, how do we secure that for only emergency use only? And have that discussion.
And who defines what emergency is.
Correct. Correct, 100%. I think that would be a better argument, so we could actually, help you to try to direct and make sure that it is properly sectioned off, so that only law enforcement and police. But I would never say that you couldn't evacuate a whole community if there was a need, even though it's private roads. God, I hope that never happens, and if it does, I hope that somebody would give me access to their private property so I can get my family out so that there's no fatalities. That's the only time that would happen.
We're not unreasonable, but.
Correct. But I think that's a better argument, is how do we make sure to secure that way? Having the way there, I think, is beneficial to both sides. I think how you protect that ingress, egress in there, have that argument, and I'm on board with discussing it. I just think that not having it and absolutely blocking it off when it potentially saves a issue future that you may or may not see.
And that's why I know it's outside the scope of this board, but the other thing is those roads will be maintained by the city. Our roads will not be. We've asked and it won't. But that's a different board, I understand.
And I understand all y'all's complaints. I mean, they're all legitimate. I just, when you look at the big contingency aspect of it, I think that's why it's warranted.
Right, just remember they're connected to something that's private. It's private.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Anyone else?
My name's Barry East. I live at 127 Charlton Lane. My concerns is when I moved to that subdivision, I was told that those were going to be private roads, that it was going to be a gated community. I thought that was going to keep down traffic. That was one of the reasons for moving there, plus the home price. Now we have all of this traffic coming through. If Stars and Stripes is the owner of that lot, and that's what is understood, if they're going to be the ones to maintain that gate, they're going to have zero interest in maintaining that gate. They're going to have zero interest in maintaining that. So when it's broke, it'll be broke. forever. It'll be easy in and out access for construction, for what, emergency vehicles. I agree with all that, that's all fine and good. But when those roads are torn up, I'm not in a position to pay $2,000 or $3,000 for an assessment fee on my home to pay those roads that we've let strangers use. The city takes in tax dollars every day through every retailer to finance roads. You don't want our roads, you want us to do it. We still spend our tax dollars here. What if our whole neighborhood decided we didn't want to spend our tax dollars here? I pass through Pelham and Hoover every day. Should I start making my purchases? I'm minuscule for the whole tax dollar, but we keep bringing all these people in. Traffic is horrendous over there, horrendous. And yet we keep putting all these houses with all these cars, whether it's on Smoky Road or whatever road. The city's not developed the roads. They've not developed the communities to take all these houses, but you want all of this because you want all those tax dollars, whether it's through sales tax, property tax, or whatever. You need to look out for the people here so that they don't get on the public media and start talking about what a bad city this is. We're never going to become a Hoover, a Vestavia. This is a bedroom community. We come to sleep here, we go back into our jobs. That's what most of the people do. So let's make it convenient for everybody. Let's make everybody want to live here, not hate to live here. That's my say.
I'm Jessica Sheffield. I live at 170 Savannah Lane. One of the last meetings I attended about this subject, it was ended by you. You cut off the public comments. And the last thing that was said, that the fire marshal was going to work with Stars and Stripes on a different entrance. So what became of that study?
I've never been the chair, so I can't cut off public comment.
Well, you did.
Yeah?
You did.
We'll see her.
There's several
I stand
witnesses.
corrected.
You cut off public comments and you said that the fire chief,
That's because someone went to yelling at us.
the fire chief was going to work with Stars and Stripes on a different second entrance. So what became of that conversation or study?
So I don't recall that being anything that I left it with. Obviously, I didn't recall cutting the meeting off. So, no, it's good. I did, it is point of record, so it's not anything I'm hiding from.
Whether or not it's in your memory or not, was it ever discussed?
I was at that meeting, and the contingency that we came up with was that if the HOA proved that it was an illegal use of that lot, then if you proved it, then we would make them get a new second entrance.
Well, I can't afford a $10,000 assessment. I've lived in Calera for 15 years and paid taxes, and y'all are gonna take Aberdeen pretty quickly after the whole thing is finished, and Savannah Point's been there for 20 years. And we're still in charge of all of our own roads, our own signs, and, this gate is not impenetrable. And if this is going to be pushed on us, then Stars and Stripes needs to put an impenetrable gate. That's, dump truck can't just push over and use that as an easy access or a shortcut. Because I saw what dump trucks did to the roads in Stonebriar, tore them to pieces where they were almost impassable. And I hate to see that in my neighborhood where I'm gonna have to pay for it myself. Very strongly.
I have one question. You may be able to answer it, or the last gentleman that spoke. He said that the subdivision was supposed to be gated, and that's what he was told when he purchased it. Can you tell me why it's not gated, and have y'all moved or requested that a gate be placed at the front entrance?
I've lived there 4 years. It was never mentioned to us by the realtors that it was private roads. That was a nice surprise that we learned after we were there a few months. I've been told that the gate was never put up by the original developer. One, he went bankrupt, and two, school buses couldn't go in and out. So it sounds like it was a lot of shady dealings when it was first built.
But as a HOA, could they put in a gate?
I'm not on the HOA board anymore.
Who's next?
My name is Richard Hudson. My address where my wife and I reside is 1201 Savannah Lane. I may have been on this part of the road 5 or 6 times since we've moved here in 2001. But I'm just looking at a map, satellite map of the community and the development you're talking about. And I'm looking at Buttercup Lane. You ever been to raise your hand if you've ever been to Buttercup Lane. Okay, cool. That butts the property, that butts this development. Albright Farm Road. How many people have ever been on Albright Farm Road? You ought to go there because it butts right up against this development. Didn't know that. I didn't know that. Anybody ever been to Smoky Road? You ever been on Smoky Road? I have. There's vacant land between this development and Smoky Road. So to tell me that there's no other options is a little facetious on your part. And I expect you to know that my wife and I will be voting for your re-election or not. It's only 3 or 4 roads, come on.
My name's Roy Barton. I live on 371 Savannah Circle. I actually live 2 doors over and across the street from that lot, so I get to watch that gate every single day. And it's been open more than it's ever been closed over those years. My main concern is I'm 60 years old. I've lived a lot of places, and I've seen these kind of situations. And with the best laid plans, always go awry. That gate will be open. There will be, if you live on that circle right below that street in Aberdeen, you know you're by far your quickest way to get to I-75 is to cut through Savannah. Otherwise, you have to go all the way around and take another 20, 25 minutes to get over to 75. And you know they're not gonna wanna do that. They're gonna line up trying to get through that gate. And as far as the emergency vehicles, the fire trucks, and having an emergency entrance for them, I've been there at Savannah Point for 22 years. Where was the concern that we didn't have another entrance? There never has been. And you can make these scenarios of a traffic accident all day long. We live right by Shelby County Airport. You could have an airplane crash on our entrance. I mean, we can play that game all day long. So to say that that won't be used is just, nobody's kidding themselves that it won't be used. And I think as Savannah Point residents, the very first time that we see a dump truck or any kind of construction truck coming through Savannah to work on Aberdeen, or the first time we see the gate open and cars from Aberdeen coming through, we own that road. We own Savannah Circle Road. I think we, as residents, should be able to block that entrance. As soon as we see cars, we take 2 or 3 cars and we block that gate. And if it's open and it shouldn't be, then we block it, we call the fire department. Because you're saying that the fire department will be responsible for it. So, as far as I'm concerned, if the gate's put there for emergency use only, as soon as I see one person coming through, I think we have the right to take our vehicles and block it off.
100%.
All right.
I'm surprised I'm walking up here. I wasn't supposed to be here tonight, but my husband's out of town. Janice McHenry, and I live at 361 Savannah Circle. And I'm curious, did you send something to my house? I don't butt up against it, but I'm the house that's directly across the street from that
If you're across the
entrance.
street, you wouldn't get it. You have to.
So you're just
touch it.
legally, you passed it out to like 4 or 5 houses?
No, ma'am. No, ma'am.
How
There were
many?
several houses.
How many?
Two.
Let's see, we had Daniel McMurray, Sean Ernest.
Daniel
Jason
McMurray sold his
Jones,
house and doesn't
Stephanie-
live there.
Ma'am, we have to go by what the tax record says. Whoever lived there signed for it, so. Kevin Taylor, Brian Didcock, Delrico Ray, Melody Wilson, Joshua Como, Perry Hillier, hers come back.
Well, personally, the reason why I ask you is because if I had known about it, I'd been willing to walk door to door about this, and hopefully we would have this whole place full. I, like Drew, agree if it was only guaranteed for personnel that is emergency person, for personal reasons of emergency, that is the only reason that I would support this, no other reason whatsoever. And so I'd be willing, but y'all would have to guarantee that that would be able to happen. So we do pay for it. It's not fair that we would have to take on and incur an expense for hundreds of more houses. It's not right. Y'all wouldn't want to do it, and we don't want to do it. So, again, I had no idea I'd be here tonight. See some people up here I know. Hi. But that is where I stand. And I'm very upset that I didn't get notified, but I guess legally, if that's what you're saying. But I have social media, I don't get on social media, and the reason why we only have the little bit that we have here is because people were calling and manually trying to get the word out themselves. Literally driving here, we were calling people. So, that's very frustrating. I am directly across from the street.
And I was just going to point out that, whenever we send these notices out, we have a statute that our staff has to go by, and the statute requires that notice be for adjacent landowners. So this wasn't something selective or something where they just sent out some, they made it, my understanding is that Ms. Smith here made every effort to send something to everyone that was an actual adjacent landowner pursuant to the statute.
I've been there almost 22 years.
And so basically, if your property did not abut, like from the 30,000-foot view, touch the property, then the statute did not require for us to send those notices. So I understand.
That's sad, because I would be just as affected more than probably some of the other people that come into this.
And I do understand some of the frustration as far as why my across the street neighbor got this, but I didn't, et cetera. But I'm just trying to explain to you the confines of why we sent the notices to who we sent it to.
And I'm just verbalizing my
Understood.
displeasure with them, because I will extremely be affected by this.
Next.
Paul Armstrong, live at 1009 Will Swirl Drive. My question is, the lot 618, is it a part of Savannah Point? Anybody answer that? So there's been no dues paid for the whole time. We understand, this was originally, and Reggie knows, this was Savannah Point that was gonna put this in, and he bankrupted, wouldn't even turn the subdivision over. The court gave it to me and two other ladies because he failed to do anything about it. So, we got taken to the bank by McKay, and that's a mute point, but does anybody know who owns 618? And it was this development, you put the picture back up there, was it approved without this entrance already being settled? Because you're asking us to pay for another entrance that the developer is responsible for. How many total homes are going in here? Anybody answer that? Nobody can answer how many homes are going in?
248 lots in this.
On the first phase, but what the other phase? What about the other phase?
I can pull it up, but I don't know.
off the top of my head.
Seemed like you hadn't done your homework to me. That nobody's done their homework on this. I've done more homework on this than anybody in this room. I've done more study. I saw where the lot was taken out, the lot was put back in, taken back out. But is it in a part of our subdivision? And if so, are they gonna be able to, if they access it from the other side, then is he gonna be a part of that subdivision? Is he gonna pay dues in there? Is he gonna pay dues over here? Is there gonna be any dues paid anywhere? I'm listening. And you did cut us off in that meeting, I was there.
I didn't get that at the time.
There was a lot of us there. And we had a lot of concerns in, and it just got approved and put in, votes got put in, and none of this has ever been settled, and nobody can answer a question.
So, one question before you leave, please. You said it was actually put in originally by the original plan? They put that road through?
It was originally designed for a house. That's what was originally designed. If you go back and look, it was originally designed for a house.
But then it was pulled out of the subdivision, that lot was?
Pulled out, put back in, which was legal. I read all the documentary on it, and that was legal, but there's never been any dues. Is it a part of our subdivision?
So just out of curiosity, is the actual entrance or the traffic that bothers you about that location as an emergency entrance?
Well, do any of you guys live on a private road that you maintain? Say it louder for the people in the back.
That's negative.
Okay. Then if somebody went on your property and damaged it, what would you do?
I'd be concerned, but that's why.
And you would hold the fire department or the city responsible for it, but if the fire truck, which is probably the heaviest vehicle that's gonna go in there, tears it up, who's gonna pay for it then, the city?
So I guess that goes back to the earlier response from the attorney. So if you're saying that you don't want city vehicles on your property, I get that, but that's something we need to look at because the city controls the fire and the police that go on that property anytime needed.
I was told by
And
this
garbage.
mayor
I didn't think about the garbage.
this city will never take over those roads. That's what I was told by this mayor twice.
Well, then, there again, not an attorney, I don't know the legal aspects of it, but do you want garbage to come from somebody else instead of the city of Calera? Do you want fire department to come from someone else other than the city of Calera? Whether that fire truck comes in the main entrance or comes through the emergency entrance, it's gonna weigh the same. And that's.
It's originally approved.
For the people of.
Who approved that subdivision to go in?
So
That's the question.
that's when I go back to the whole thing, if we're arguing over stopping traffic and allowing emergency vehicles, to me, that's a better argument than just the fact that we own the streets and we don't want city vehicles on it. Because we're attesting that we're actually only allowing for emergency exit, it's not a pass-through street. It's only there, it's a gated street. Now, if you got a problem with the gate, let's discuss that and let's work that out. But if the complaint that the city vehicles are just as detrimental as other typical traffic, I think is counterproductive when we come into the main entrance to provide y'all services. And that's all I'm saying.
Well, I'm saying the developer has some other options that's been clearly stated in here. There was other options to put this in and all this was approved to go on, In fact, we brought to this same committee, major changes were made to this. These were supposed to be New Orleans style homes. He will tell you he was superintendent for that. When that was, and it was a part of Savannah Point at that time. This is not a part of Savannah Point. That developer went bankrupt. He wouldn't turn over any of that to us, and it went to 2020. It went to court, and they took it out of his hands, and we took it over.
Next.
Real quick, just, I think it would be important for the city attorney to make a determination for the benefit of the city about whether or not the lot 618 is subject to the Savannah Point covenants or not. I think that's something that.
I first, if I'm being asked to give a legal opinion as to
No, no.
whether or not the HOA has some sort of grievance, I'm just not in a position to do that. However, I'd be happy to take a look at any solution that helps alleviate any of the concerns anybody has here. But I don't believe that that is an issue that I can take a look at when it comes to HOA obligations.
Just to be clear, we're not talking about, just whether or not 618 is actually subject to the covenants, the restrictions of record for Savannah Point. And I understand that's a private matter on behalf of Savannah
Private
Point.
property and private entities,
So, but just for consideration of the planning committee as far as determining whether they're going to make use or approve use of 618, if there are lawful restrictions that already apply to that lot 618, which they may or may not, then that should be something that the city should consider as part of its approval or non-approval.
Yes.
I just have one other quick point. It's my understanding that legally Aberdeen has to have, because of the size of the community that combined what we understand will be 600 homes, that they're required to have 2 entrances in and out of the neighborhood that those residents are free to use to come and go. So if we're just going to use the 618 lot as an emergency exit, now Aberdeen is down to 1 entrance and exit that they're free to use. So what is the plan to build another entrance and exit to meet law?
There's no requirement for 2 entrances. There's only a requirement for 1 entrance and 1 emergency.
Then why are we so set on using 618?
Because they own it. That's what they're planning to use as their emergency entrance.
You said that there was, Brisky and Kate again, 6 letters that went out to the homeowners that were butting up against Aberdeen. So out of 467, that's 0.012% of the owners of Savannah Point that got contacted. Another thing too, because you talk about emergency vehicles coming in and out. We love Calera Fire Department, okay? We have emergencies in Savannah Point. But what if there's 10 or 15 emergencies that run through Aberdeen all the time, and that's their choice of going through there instead of going around? Actually, it's probably shorter to go down 22 to come up through Aberdeen. But if they're always using that cut through, that's wear and tear on our roads for emergencies in Aberdeen, not Savannah Point. Thank you.
I got one more quick point. A minute ago, you said that we'd have to talk about emergency services and garbage going into our neighborhood. I mean, was that some kind of soft threat there, or like if we don't
Not
approve
at all.
this?
Not at all. I just, whenever he made the threat of charging the city with trespassing, I said, that we are already coming in on the property, so is that inappropriate as well?
But yeah, that's
So-
servicing our neighborhood, that's not servicing that neighborhood, so.
But that's correct, but if it came to your neighborhood as an emergency entrance, it would be
Okay.
servicing your neighborhood.
So if we do not allow this, are we gonna be?
I'm not an attorney.
I know, I'm just saying.
I'm just stating a fact of what I heard.
Okay.
And it interests me that he would say that he would charge the city of Calera for trespassing for coming from one subdivision to another through a private property, however you say it, and then to treat somebody. To me, that rubbed me wrong. Maybe I shouldn't have reacted. I said I wasn't gonna say a whole lot when I came here today, but I always end up doing it. So it's because I'm opinionated. Just like I think y'all all have the right to be opinionated.
Yeah.
I think that we should listen to everything that you have to say, and we should take it into consideration. And that's also why I said that I think if we're talking about the gate and the access, to me, that's a better argument than just outright, you're using my private streets. But they're your streets, and I don't understand that because I'm not in that situation. Y'all done way more research on that than I could ever do because I never dealt with it. If I dealt with it, I'd do more research on it, and I'd understand your feelings. But I do think that an emergency entrance is needed for not only Aberdeen, but for Savannah Point. I think if it was monitored properly and maintained properly, I think it'd be a good thing for both sides. And that's how I see it. Y'all may not see it what I said, it's just how I see it.
That's possible. We feel like we're not giving any kind of guarantees on anything through this whole
Correct,
process.
and that's a great conversation. What are the guarantees that the gate's gonna be put in properly and maintained properly?
Yeah.
To me, that's a great conversation.
Yeah.
I think that's a productive conversation. Honestly, what we do as a governing zoning body, we basically make sure that all the Ps and Qs and the Ts are crossed and Is are dotted, and then we approve something based on the fact that it meets all regulations. It does. It does. So sitting here arguing about it doesn't change the fact that it's already passed the initial process and it meets all requirements. So a constructive conversation would be the access.
Yeah, it just feels like one little gray area that the rest, I mean, the neighborhood
100%.
just has one spot's a little gray. So,
Yeah.
thank you.
Hey, my name is Josh Como. I'm at 380 Savannah Circle. I did get a letter. So we were there, so where was I? We got a letter. As long as it stays emergency access only, just like when Philip Busby sat up where y'all are at and had a big fight on this board to have that there, emergency access, it needs to be there. It needs to be there, so any kind of police vehicles, I'm fine with that. And I'm on that road, I see it all the time. So I'm perfectly fine with what that gate was there for. I'm fine with it. I live there, a lot of these people on the other side, I know it still affects them, but I see that road every day. A lot of people got up, they got the letter, got the letter and see that road. Yes, emergency, if it stays for that, but if y'all put something in, I think it's kind of crazy that Stars and Stripes decided they wanted to buy that. And we know exactly why they wanted to buy that, because that was their deal to get a second interest. Easy, quick, and cheap. But as long as it stays emergency only, Stars and Stripes can own that all they want. I don't care. But they're not bringing trucks in. They're not, the neighborhood, that Aberdeen neighborhood is not coming through our neighborhood. It's not happening. So they needed to find another spot. And that's it. So that's all I gotta say. Like I said, emergency only, I'm fine with this. So, yeah.
Would you guys mind if we put our own gate on
Oh,
our
we
street
will.
and kind of circle? And in that way, Star and Stripe for sure will not maintain their gate. We will maintain ours.
Sir, that's why I asked why you're not putting a gate at the entrance of your subdivision. You could control whoever comes in your subdivision.
And you guys gonna be okay with that? Okay, so that's one option.
I mean, that's why I asked. It was sold as a gated subdivision, and that gentleman even said his realtor told him there was gonna be a gate.
No, gate at the front. It was not sold.
Right.
90% of the people
But
that
why are
own
you not
properties.
considering putting a gate at the front?
We are considering. We just
That's
want to
fine.
make sure that you guys are gonna be okay with that. Because at that point, Aberdeen is gonna have one entrance. And that kind of beats the purpose. You guys are talking about Aberdeen and your new code has to have
It would
two
just
entrances.
control emergency only. If a fire truck came there, whoever your guard is would let him in if he knew he was going to that entrance. But he's not gonna let,
Keep that. I mean, we got 3 or 4 neighborhoods right now that are gated.
right.
They
Who's
have
maintaining those gates?
Because he could be there, our HOA decide that.
Yes, who is?
No, they're homeowners.
Your homeowners association does.
Okay, but just remember that technically speaking, by law, we do not have to have 2, for emergency or not. They do. So if we block, completely block, and I'm not talking about gate, completely block, that puts them at default. Okay, that's the stuff that needs to be considered here. Okay, because we have the right to completely block it because it's completely and 100% private. So technically speaking, we can block it, cement it, done. And if we tell you, sir, okay, you know what? Hypothetically speaking, we don't want emergency from that. So we'll take the risk. Okay? Mr. Engineer now has to find a different way, which should have been done to begin with. So why are we not going to what needs to be done instead of all these petty what if and this and this and that? Okay? We all need here, we all know what the right answer. Go back to the engineer, find a different way, which is the correct way to go about it, and don't put the burden and the hardship on us. Okay? It's very simple. And yes, it's gonna cost them a little bit more. It's not my problem. If not, it's gonna cost us, what is it? 2 million? 10 million every 5-10 years?
Pave the road, yeah.
There you go. Maybe it's gonna cost them $1 million for the whole cost of the project. Okay? don't forget, you guys work for us, not the other way around. And right now, we are fighting you guys. Why are we not fighting him? Why are we fighting you again and again and again? That's not the right way. You guys should be on our side. I just don't understand this. To me, it's almost like an abuse of power. Here comes 450 or 70 people having to fight local authority. Why? It's simple.
Who's next?
Thank you.
All Armstrong does the city maintain the front section of Savannah Point? Developed by Larry Clayton?
Your road?
Yes,
Don't hold me to this, because I'm not the city engineer, but I think they do.
they do. So you already drive on the one that you own under there. So that's a good one. So you say, you know, the trash and all that, because they took it over and we were willing to work with this city to make all the needed repairs that the city actually approved with the first developer to put it in, okay? We're stuck with it. We've upgraded pipes, we've done studies, we've used Insight for our work in there. I don't have a problem with them, they do good work. We've used them in there to make drain better, to widen pipes, so the city would take it over, but they told us they will not. So, they're only willing to work with new neighborhoods, so I don't understand that. But, we spend a lot of money, we have, but paving roads is one huge expense. But we've tried to do everything we can to bring it up to the codes, and we're willing to do that. But nobody on this board of the city wants to try to do that. So you see from our position, I've been in there almost 19 years. Seen a lot of things come and go, but when it all boils back down to the city approved it. I don't know, but the city approved it. This city approved that. So, and I know none of y'all were here. None of us were here. There wasn't a single one of us in here at that time. So we're all coming in this together, trying to work out something here where we can all, get a solution. So, but if they're required to put two in, like you said, and the work's already gone on, the engineering part, but there's not a clear. Whether as far as the stripes have been at this meeting, when we discussed this several times. Would it be in their best interest to be here at this meeting?
Oh, I don't disagree with you on that.
No?
Don't disagree with you on that.
Yeah, I think they should be here, and we could discuss it, so. But if, like you said, if this is just gonna be the second entrance, and we're the scapegoat for that, that's what it looks like to us, from our point, our side of the street, that we're, whether emergency, because you're gonna get in trouble by emergency vehicles, because they don't have enough access into there. And like I say, that was approved back, but this is a new development which underwent major changes, which we pointed out last time. And when it undergoes major changes, it's supposed to go back. Well, it went back, but you're under the same codes back in 7 or 8 or whenever this was first passed out. So.
Yes, ma'am.
Hey there, my name's Ashley Jackson, I'm at 317 Savannah Circle. So this is my first meeting, but this is not the first time that I've heard of this situation. And it does sound like there are other options and other street options and, entrances that you all could possibly use. And I would like to hear from the developer, or the engineer, just to see what considerations they had to choose our subdivision versus the other possible roads that were, I guess, maybe if it was up for consideration, and maybe that was not an option. But it would be helpful to hear what their rationale was. Would you mind coming up, sorry?
I believe the owner's here, he would like to speak.
Okay.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Before I speak, I just want to make sure that I'd just like to save my time for rebuttal, so if there's any more open
you feel like we're gonna have any more public comment, let's make sure we get all the points on the thing and then we discuss it outright. But I'm Tom Hardy, I'm working for Safe Park Development. We are the representatives of Stars and Stripes, so we are here tonight. So we've heard a lot of feedback, and I can talk to many of those points if we need to. But let's make sure it's rebuttal and closing the conversations back and forth, if possible.
Everybody through talking? So we'll close the public comments at this time.
So we can't have a comment after he comments, we can't,
Let's wait and see what he says.
can we wait to see what he says?
We've had public dialogue so far, and we've heard from you, many of you, many times.
But we haven't heard from Stars and Stripes.
All right.
I got one more thing to say after you.
I'm going to withdraw my hard line. I said, if they want to get back up, if there's any new revelation for them, that's fine.
Thank you.
This is a preliminary plat here, right? So master plan, all these access points, all the requirements for fire marshal, all that has been hashed out and rehashed out, as you said many times at previous meetings. So this access point was studied, was discussed, and put to bed a long time ago. This is how we're doing it. As our engineers, Scott up here stated at the beginning, we're here for the preliminary plat of phase 2. We meet all requirements. I believe staff notified correctly. And, you know, if the easements and the access that was discussed in Savannah Point, those are public, private public access easements. Because I don't know how an Amazon truck gets there. I don't know how, if somebody's hosting a party, how do people outside the neighborhood come in and access lots. Those are private, those are public easements, but y'all beautifully stated it. This is a gated for fire access, for fire marshal. Your fire department has the code. At the end of this development, this will be all City of Calera's right of way. So it'll be the fire department and everybody else to maintain that access point. That access point is required for fire department reasons, and not for transportation or connections or anything planning wise. It's strictly for fire marshal, so this is a win-win. It does give emergency access to both neighborhoods. If there's a fire trucks down the south side need to come up through us, they can access Savannah Point to put out any fires. Likewise. Lot 618 is not part of Savannah Point. It is not subject to any covenants or restrictions. It is separate. That was decided at previous meetings, previous negotiations, previous conversations. So it is part of us, and it's part of our public road that will be eventually dedicated to the City of Calera. I assume as part of the master planning process, there was a larger notification radius, probably 500 feet or so, not the preliminary plat is a more formalistic, and I assume staff followed all proper code of notifications. I'll be more happy to answer any questions that you may have.
I have them. Go ahead.
Okay.
I'll let you go.
Yeah, for you, sir.
Yes, sir.
George Long. What assurances can you provide? Obviously, here tonight, the lack of trust that this gate is going to be just emergency, right? I mean, I think that's pretty well established, and it's a trust issue.
Yes.
Yeah, I hear you, and I've heard some people say they're okay with that. If it stays that way, what can we do to provide, to build the trust? What assurances would you provide, hearing the comments that you've heard today?
So my immediate notice to go back to my team, let's make sure we're maintaining the gate as long as it's still on our property. You know, internally, I mean, as we talk about build out of the entire development, you put it, I don't necessarily want two gates. I know the fire marshal probably doesn't want two gates, one at the bottom of the hill, one at the bottom of the hill, one at the top of the hill. I don't think we want that. But there is conversations that, and we can put into assurances on our side that we'll make sure all the contractors and that is not an exit.
So beyond conversations though, because we're talking about trust, what can be done to establish
So,
beyond just a conversation?
so let's talk about it. There's the near and the far future. The near future is during the construction of the development. And, I mean, I'm open to any suggestions about at pre-cons, we can put up barriers, temporary barriers during construction to make sure construction on our side, to make sure at the top of the hill, at the back of 618, just to make sure that there's nothing going out that way. And then once it's transferred to the city, well, that's the city's to maintain and keep the knockbox on there for farmers.
But I heard a lot of concern about construction, so let's just kind of systematically work through it. You're saying you guys would be responsible for construction?
We'll put up temporary Jersey barriers at the top of the hill. That's nothing but those out, just to make sure that vehicles can't go that way during construction.
Yeah.
As long as the fire marshal doesn't expect fire access during construction down to there.
I won't speak for him, but,
I mean, there's a means and methods that we gotta do to get them planning.
So my question was going to be, is there a way we can put a beefy enough gate where it can't be just broken into? Because it sounds like several people have cut locks and gained entrance. And I don't know what that beefier means or what that level of gate stands for, but I think that would give a lot of confidence in people if the gate was a more suitable gate security-wise.
We'll look into that. I mean, and I'm not sitting here to complain or anything like that. But if that lot is being, if that gate's being cut, it's not access out of our site to get into Savannah Point. It's Savannah Point going down there with floor lowers and trucks and stuff like that to play around and stuff like that. That's what my understanding of in the past when that lock and that change get cut. But to your point, we talk about a near and a future. You know, whatever final gate that the fire marshal wants for his access with his knockbox and all that, that'll be up to the city to maintain that. To me, the Jersey barriers at the back of lot 618 during construction is the easiest solution during construction.
Sure, and maybe this is something we need to get with the fire marshal and fire department, just to make sure that it's a gate that's suitable, that we can truly maintain without breaking into a hunt management area, and you don't get through those gates. You know, so something similar to that.
Yeah, I mean, what we got up there is what we put up there when we bought it. As far as privately blocking it or anything like that, that's for the fire marshal and the city to have a conversation with private owners in Savannah Point. But that 618 does have direct access to curb cuts. I noticed in the photo y'all had up earlier, somebody's playing basketball on the access drive on lot 618, so we haven't complained about that yet.
Yeah, building it up would just show a good trust and build trust back in people. Because I think right now it's just a standard small caliber 2-inch pipe gate.
But, I mean, you understand my point on during construction, Jersey barriers at the back of 618 is.
Sure, I'm not even worried about construction, I'm worried about after the fact too.
We'll come in during the process when we transfer that lot to the city for public right of way. We'll make sure that coordination and that conversation happens at that dedication process.
Would you mind transferring it to us?
My conversations with the city.
Okay.
And actually, you would not want that, because he's sitting here saying the city will take it over one day, and it will be their responsibility once they take that roadway over. So you would not want to take it in and add burden to your community again.
I don't know.
And if you did, I'm sure the city clearly would allow it.
Can I ask a question? If that 618 is not the second access way to, once the subdivision for all the general houses is finished, where's the second road that they're gonna put in, because they're required to have two?
they're only required to have one.
Oh, they
Right.
only have to have the two, the
The
second.
second,
one is for
the second
emergency.
is an emergency.
Sorry, I misunderstood that.
We have to have only one. They have to have two. So if we block them, we cause them to default.
And that was all the questions I had. I think just a good faith gesture, give the fire chief and make sure they get sturdy enough that once we move the Jersey barriers after construction, that not only I feel like it's non-accessible to emergency vehicles.
Yes, sir. Any other questions?
Any board members have questions this time?
I have just one question. Once the roads are given over to the city, if it meets all the criteria and given over to the city, why should you have any needs to have control of the game then, once the city controls it?
I still think the connection and the city owns it, it's still, the connection point is still asking, dictated by the fire marshal. So the fire marshal is the one that wants the connection between the two subdivisions, the two communities for fire access. The
Yeah.
gate is to prevent day-to-day ingress egress between the two developments. Only emergency access vehicles are accessing between the two communities.
Yes, I understand that. I'm just thinking it's, again, coming down to a trust issue, I guess.
But, I mean, y'all, to your point, I mean, it's up to the city. If y'all want it for access and all that, yeah, y'all can remove the gate, but that's y'all's decision.
Okay, so I was just, maybe Brian, I guess what I'm asking, once we get to that point, if this passes, once we get to that point, why can't the city have total control of the gate? So then, why would that be a concern? I know some people saying, well, Star District not gonna keep,
Great point, sir.
Once they turn it over to us, it's our responsibility.
so then you have no problem with that at all. I mean, you have no need to do anything, because once the road is dedicated to the city, that's correct?
No, the gate right now is on private property.
Yes, I understand now.
And we're there to prevent access to our property for right now. We'll do the Jersey barriers and make sure construction traffic is not an
Right.
issue. Then once it's fully dedicated, it's y'all's to,
Okay.
it's y'all's prerogative.
And finally, I guess my last question, I know you all been doing, your asset road coming off 22 there. Have there been any, some of the construction that's been going on down there, did anything been coming to Savannah Point towards your?
The phase one is under construction right now. There is no connection points between phase one and Savannah Point at this time. This is phase two, that'll be hopefully approved and preliminary platted tonight, and that'll allow us to begin construction on phase two, and phase two will be the construction that provides that emergency access point. And during that process and during the final plat, that process, we'll have a conversation about dedication
So I got one more. I don't see her now. She may be sitting way in the back. I think she had asked for more information, and I'm sorry, ma'am, I forget your name. You were one of the last one. Yes, ma'am. I forget your name, but she had asked the question, what were the other discussion options as far as what else was looked at? Because I don't know that was addressed to her, so.
As far as that is settled, conversations, that there was, I mean, the gentleman got up and talked about all the other potential points, with the coordination during the master plan, all that, those connection points, all the engineering, all the master plan, all those access points, is settled decisions in previous with the master plan. So we're here to plat what was in the previous, it's decided upon. This discussion of what ifs and what may be's, we're here to preliminary plat the master plan that y'all already approved, and we've met all current subdivision code and received all your approvals from our stuff.
Thank you.
How close is this development to Buttercup Lane? I'm curious.
Quick, is there a contract with the city and the developer regarding maintenance for the proposed contract? We're talking about good faith, and I think that would go a long ways to see some kind of draft agreement for continued maintenance by the city of Calera as part of the submission, as part of the consideration by the affected homeowners. So if there is something out there like that, a draft, of course, I think prior to approval, greatly appreciate that.
I can just say there's no drafts or anything at this conjuncture.
Normally it's
They're
not
not
done until
yet.
it's,
Take care of
you know,
after.
taken care of through the acceptance part of it, right? At this time, this board needs to decide what to allow or not. Do I hear a motion from anybody?
So moved.
I second this, Mayor.
Got a motion and a second for approval of Aberdeen Phase 2. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed likewise.
No.